Are we live, Renee? All right. Welcome to governance. Regent Harrison Lee, how you doing?
I'm good. Good morning, everyone. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for making the effort to join us via Zoom. We'll dive right into the agenda. I need to start with a motion to approve the minutes from February 15th, 2023. Any changes or amendments? I want to move to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we got past the minutes. There we go. All right, we got our friends from Emporia State here to give us the campus safety and security report. So take it away, Kevin.
Right. Well, just make sure you know who I am. I'm Kevin Johnson, General Counsel, and this is Steve Lovett, Associate General Counsel. And depending on the types of questions you might have, it'll either be me or Steve that answers. There's things he knows. He needs to answer those questions. But generally, as far as security report, our campus is a friendly, happy, safe place. We haven't had any significant or any real security events over the past year. Our campus police they'll be called sometimes to escort students at night because someone's nervous about something, which they do. And occasionally there's someone who's had perhaps more to drink than they should have. And depending on the circumstances, they're not usually causing trouble. They're just needing help getting back to the dorm or getting off campus. It's mischievousness more than anything else. And our campus police are first rate. They do spend time every year with Emporia Police Department, Lyon County Sheriff's Office, in joint exercises for different types of scenarios. So I think they're ready. If we need them for something, every so often there'll be a disruption at a meeting, and we've had a couple of those this past year. And it's not gotten out of control, but if we need someone, we try to anticipate this might be a situation where we need an officer standing by. And they're standing by, they're close, but they don't make an appearance or a presence unless someone contacts them. And then, but so far, I think we've always handled whatever's come up within the meeting. It was short-lived, and we went right back to our meeting. So that's going well. As far as concealed carry issues, we haven't had any. The campus police are the ones who have priority in dealing with all the complaints, reports. And they would let me know if anything had come up, and nothing has happened. I mean, since the policy changed in 2017, to my knowledge, I can't think of a single incident that we've had. It's just been no problems whatsoever. On the Title IX issues, our Title IX coordinator resigned a couple of months ago, and she took a job in Lawrence, where she lives. She'd been commuting, and it's a good move for her. We miss her terribly because she was incredible. But our interim Title IX coordinator is also our HR director, and the good news for us so far is that we've not had any issues. We've had some reports. We've had a fair number of reports, but once you look at them, talk to the people, either the person who made the report doesn't want to talk any further. It's like they get it out of their system and then they're okay. Or there's a discussion and it doesn't rise to the level of even a Title IX policy issue. And so there's a discussion with the students. Sometimes someone might need a service or some assistance for something, and we always offer that anyway. And so if somebody needs something, we take care of that for them. But we don't have any active formal investigations right now. We have one case that the complainant, I think, wants it to be a Title IX issue, but we don't think it is. We think it's much less than that. So we're kind of dealing with that one right now, but it's, I guess, still pending, would you say? And as far as preparing for the new regulations, we're still taking a wait and see because until they become final, things can change. And Jennifer, who was our coordinator before, had been working on it. She and I had talked about it. And she said that of the changes that she was familiar with, and she'd gone through the proposals, the one thing that struck her the most was no longer requiring a formal hearing in the formal process. And she felt that was good for the university. It just makes the process easier. But she was working on it and then she left. And so now we're we have other things on our plate. So we have the, I think the outline prepared. Jennifer got it started. We have some things there and we have her on contract if we need her to come back and do things for us. So we'll be ready. We're just not working a lot on it right now. And part of it is we want to wait and see what's really going to happen. And I believe from the issues that I'm aware of, that's what you had asked about. But if you have questions, we'll certainly do our best to address your questions.
Cheryl, Carl, any questions for Kevin and Steve?
No questions from me.
Okay, I got a few. This may be a question for Steve. Guys been doing controlled burns of marijuana, so everybody can know what it smells like. That's what we learned last month from our brother. You were sorry. Just I had to throw that out again.
Thanks, you remember.
Thanks for that. Everybody get a good smell of that. That's
That's what I thought it was sage.
yeah. Hey, so how are you guys doing training students and faculty around Title IX and making them aware of how to report or what to report or what consent means, things like that? I mean, what's your process for that?
We have training each semester. Jennifer did the training all through fall. There's annual training required for some things. She handled all those during the fall, which includes athletics, and she's spent a fair amount of time down there. And Ray, our HR director, has been down to athletics this semester for the training, the follow-up training that happens in the spring. Students get this as part of orientation in, I believe, in August, and then also in new students in beginning of the spring semester. And different groups will be contacted for meetings if they wish additional training or focus training for them. Different student groups sometimes will have that. And with faculty, it's the same process. So we let them know, we let everybody know that everybody is a mandatory reporter. If you see something, don't just wait for someone else to do it. You need to, if you think there's an issue, you gotta report it. And then once it's reported, then we'll take it from there.
Did you get 100% participation from faculty and staff in that training? Are you getting to everybody at least once a year?
We're getting to everybody. I think we're getting to everybody at least once a year.
What about
faculty-
incoming freshmen and things like that?
Yeah, that's mandatory. I mean, that we get, as far as I know, we get every single person that comes in. And we have separate orientation for international students, and I'll be involved in some of those to kind of let them know, here's how US law works, here's how Kansas law works, because sometimes it's a lot different than what they're used to.
Just when I hear we're not getting a lot of reports, sometimes that can mean that there's people don't have a lot of knowledge about how to do it, or faith in the office or things like that, and having lost someone that a lot of people like to trust. I just wanted to make sure that you were getting out there and telling people, hey, if there's issues, it can mean things are good. But it could also, so I just wanted to check that.
Yeah, if a report's not made and we don't have any reason to suspect something happened, then we'll never know.
Yep.
That report wasn't made when it could have been made, or why. But the first, Jennifer did make it a point, and then Ray confirmed it after he came in, to let people know, because the reporting process is to an email report. It just means instead of Jennifer monitoring it, now Ray monitors that. So the change in personnel doesn't change how it happens. But we've done what we can to let people know, hey, it's still the same process. It still works. If you have any issues, let us know. And Jennifer did have a really good rapport with students and with athletes. And they missed her. Everybody misses her.
Well, so, and then are you guys out actively looking for a replacement, or when you're
Yeah.
saying wait and see, you're waiting to see what happens with regulations?
We'll
before
wait
you
to see on the
rehire?
regulation part, but we're going to have a Title IX coordinator.
Okay.
We're going to replace her. Right now, Ray is handling it on an interim basis. We have finished the position description. We basically tried to describe Jennifer's qualifications and her experience and think if we find someone like that, then we'll offer them whatever we can afford to get them to go on board. But to back it down a little bit, what do we really need? Because she brought a lot to the table. So that took a little bit of effort to get that written just the way we liked it, and I think it's a good one. So that's finished, and it's just a matter of watching that and beginning the search. And we think it's going to go rather quickly, but we'll find out.
Yeah, and I think there can be sometimes confusion between Title IX and HR. What's the HR issue and what's Title IX? So I want to make sure while those are together in the same person, that person understands the two lanes. And
Yeah,
it's not all one just because it's the same person.
our guy understands the difference because he and Jennifer worked closely together on things. He's on top of this. He understands the difference between the two. And I meet with him practically daily on various things. And Steve meets with Ray maybe as much. And the three of us will get together. We spent some time yesterday together on an issue. So if he has a question, he knows he can talk to us. We have each other's, we socialize together. So it's very simple, very easy.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Other questions, anybody else? Okay, thank you guys for coming and presenting.
Okay. Thank you.
Consider the controlled burn. They know how to do it out there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You can
All
stay
right,
if you want.
President Flanners, you want to
Grab some
introduce the
coffee.
KU agreement?
Yeah, so this agreement would have thresholds that we'll need to approve.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Good to see you.
We began, and I have Elaine here, probably give more color to this, but we began with our student athletic health task force. And then we had a little change based on feedback from the task force, and I'm in alignment with this, that the group, instead of doing it remotely, should also come to the campus, each campus. That increased the cost of the agreement. And so now we're over the threshold for approval. I need you help on that.
Yes, and then the contract between the third party, the USCA, United States U.S. Council for Athletes Health, has executed the amendment with KU, so that's done. So we're now to $330,000. We will be reimbursing KU for that expense from our federal gear fund.
So mechanics, though, why is the agreement with KU as opposed to the whole, we're reviewing all athletics, right?
It's a procurement issue.
So you don't have to take it up.
So they sped up the procurement process for us, doing the same thing that Department Administration would have done. I don't know, probably it took about,
So they're acting on everyone's behalf then?
yes, on our behalf.
Okay, fair enough.
This feels good to me. I think it's great to get them in person. Sometimes you pick up different stuff on things like this when you're in the room with somebody versus over Zoom or checking paperwork. So I don't have any questions. I'm supportive of it. Regent Harrison Lee, Regent Ice.
So, yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So the question was proposed if they're acting on everybody's behalf. So they would only do this for KU, correct?
No.
No, they're doing all six.
They would do all of them. Okay,
Task
Correct.
force, essentially.
okay,
We wanted to bring in a third party for the full task force.
Okay.
Kate's taking the lead on the contract, and then we're working out the details.
That's right.
okay. All right, thank you.
Regent Ice.
I'm full accord with making an adjustment. This is the second meeting in a row we've had something to talk about because it's gone over your delegation of authority. Is that something we should be reevaluating? Is what's the threshold?
We have brought that before.
Okay,
And the board at that time
beat you down.
Well, pretty much. I think it's, I think with inflation, I think it's something we ought to keep pace with. We have legislation over there now that increases. I'm trying to recall exactly on some facilities issues. If you don't, it just, you just are taking all these. So I think it's, we're the ones that brought forward the issue of the multi-year, because I really felt like I shouldn't be binding a board multi-year. But I think it's something we could raise without any much risk to the board.
Ask Julian to come to us with a recommendation.
Whatever the right process is.
John or whoever, sorry, I don't
Yeah, so we can bring that proposal.
And to your point, a multi-year is different than an individual year.
It is.
So, you can't do $100,000 deals, and be okay. So, but, all right.
know. We need to vote on this.
So moved to
Right.
approve this.
Do I have I'll second it. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Let's review the CEO assessment process, changes 24 tool. That would be the one and only Julian Miller.
Still here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under tab 3, well, starting with tab 3 of your materials, there's a marked up copy of the CEO assessment tool that contains suggested changes that we've received from Regents over the last year and a half. The edits to sections 1 through 5 were those that were provided by Regent Winter, and they're the same that this committee reviewed last September. So I don't know if you had any questions, concerns, or disagreement with any of those suggested changes. What I thought
And
we
let me
would
ask
do-
this question too. So process from here is we essentially give you feedback, you go take it to the CEOs, they come back. And then ultimately, it's not just government kicks it to the board and we approve it in probably May would be my guess. It could be April or May.
So exactly.
Right.
We are seeking direction from the committee today so that we have a pretty good idea of what you want before we send it out to the CEOs. And then we'll get their feedback, bring it back to this committee next month if we can, May if we can't, and then to the full board in June, by June,
Are you MJ1 on the side there? Is that
probably.
Miller, Julian,
That's-
number one?
I think that is me.
So one thing I'd just like to add is that I think we've improved it over time, but it used to be the board would weigh in on a lot of items that the board didn't need to weigh in on. As an example, has the CEO increased enrollment? That's not a value judgment from the board. Yes, they have. No, they haven't. Here's the enrollment numbers. So and you had brought that up, I think, a couple of months ago. And I think we're trying to get that where where the board's not making a value judgment when it's just yes or no.
So yeah, that's further on. I was gonna go through this
Oh, I'm
front to
sorry.
back. No, that's okay. I just, my plan was just sort of to walk through
do it.
this and kind of get your feedback on
I
each.
definitely think we should change the year from 2023 to 2024.
Okay.
Here at the first page.
Appreciate that. And then, as you pointed out, on page 6, there's a comment to the side. I inserted the comment, but it's really coming from your general counsel, John, because when he read this for the first time, fresh eyes, he was looking at that going, is that the right word? And so, question, should it be risks? I think at the time it was developed, that's what the authors meant, but maybe now, it makes more sense to use the word measures instead of risks. I just throw that out there. And then the rest of those, like the underline that you see, those are Regent Winters suggested additions.
You need us to weigh in on if it's the risks or measures. What do you guys want to do?
I'm ambivalent.
Cheryl, you got
sorry.
an opinion? Risks or measures?
No.
I'm fine going with Julian. She wants to put in measures. I don't know. I don't know if, I don't think this is intended to be a risk management question.
No,
So
okay.
that'd be the only reason you put risks is are the risks, are they taking too great a risk? Are they taking too little? Like you're trying to create that discussion. I think the discussion's about, are they leaning in to accomplish the goals of the university?
Yes, I
Right.
think so.
Or are they asleep at the switch, right? That's what we're trying to figure out. So. Yeah, I'm fine with everything else on that page. Anything else?
No. I've had trouble over the last 17 or 18 months of making actionable comments, so I'm being measured this morning. I mean, I think, I continue to think this is pretty long. We get the self-assessments, for instance, from CEO Flanders, and it's a 2 or 3 page narrative that actually I think we like, that we think has got the most value in creating a meaningful conversation. That doesn't really resemble something quite like this. So I still have some just overarching concerns that we've got lots of superstructure and substance here, and just really how we frame the discussions match that, and is that appropriately so?
Yeah, which
But
is,
I don't have anything to say today that we need to do differently.
yeah, which is bigger than a wordsmithing.
Yes.
And so,
But I just finally decided I needed to say something so we don't get done with the wordsmithing and then we go, everybody's okay. Like the previous conversation.
so let me ask if there was a desire for, I don't know if overhaul is still too strong or refresh is too light, right? Versus just the tweaking. Is that a process that is better to lay out and say, hey, coming into 2025, we'll have this thing overhauled? Or is that something where in next 30, 40 days, you can have enough? Anybody got a thought on that?
My one thought is that I think you want to give CEOs at least 12 months to adjust whatever needs to be adjusted to be able to be responsive to the new expectations. And so if we can get it done by June, I think you can do that for 2024's assessment. If you can't get it done by June, I don't know. It's a conversation. Do you want to push it out another, year?
Well,
Yeah, I'd say there's a parallel here. That I think many of the CEOs would say, if it's something that they believe is a positive change, I think they'd be willing to just say yes. As an example, we used to have the narratives. Some of them were 30 to 40 pages. It felt pretty long. We said, well, let's go to 10 pages in exec sum. And then we've said, well, we don't need an exec sum because we're really repeating ourselves. So let's just do a shorter narrative. The CEOs, I think, were all on board with that. And the one who wasn't has left. But I mean, they were all on board with that. And so we can make that change quickly. If there's controversy, then I think it's one of those things where we go back and forth a little bit. But I don't know why we couldn't do this by June, because I think there'd be some changes to the superstructure would be welcome.
well, I don't know what to say because we have our processes and our rhythms that we do and they get put in place and then we move forward and then we weigh on this periodically and then we're behind the curve and it becomes hard for it to be different until we hit this time. And again, I don't think anything I said had anything to do with changing expectations. I want to state with all due respect, I disagree that somehow what we're talking about is, I don't think this necessarily matches or doesn't match expectations. Again, CEO Flanders felt very comfortable writing a 2 or 3 page letter that he thought addressed all of this. And then we read it and thought it was fine, apparently, because nobody said, as best I can tell, nobody said, well, wait a minute, how come we didn't answer all these other questions? And let's go back and look at all those. So I just think we don't have, and we've had more than one CEO say it's way too long, takes too much. We're having staff fill out the self-assessments. I think that's probably not the right thing to have happen, but they say it's so much work. That's what they need to do. We get them in glossies. So again, I can create a lot of enthusiasm about my mind about this once a year, and then we say, oh, we can't get it done, and then we go on. So I don't know really what to say exactly, but
To me, there's two different things too, though. There's the process, which includes the self-assessments and what those look like and all of that. And then there's the tool, which is the only thing I've brought today. And
But if
you're
the tool
right. I mean, I
doesn't-
wasn't.
The tool doesn't match the way we actually function, though, then there is a question in my mind. So
Okay.
Yeah, Cheryl.
Yeah, I think that if we're able to get this to a point in June where we can kind of make it easier and, help the CEOs to provide us the feedback we need, I think it would be good to do that. I mean, other than waiting 25, I mean, it just seems like it's far away to be able to get something in place. I'd like to see us kind of move this.
Yeah,
on
I
a
agree with
track
you.
Where we can complete it for June.
So how about we hit pause for a month and we'll
Okay.
come back in the April meeting. We have a straw man that looks at processing tools and sees if there's anything that then hopefully coming out of April that we have something we can go get feedback on. And maybe we don't
Okay.
pass it till June.
So I'm hearing that, so you're saying for us, we need to bring back the next month some kind of plan, straw man, that addresses some of these concerns.
I think what John's saying, but personally, what I would suggest is don't, you don't have to go do anything. And I mean, I started some of this. I heard your comment. I'll carefully think about that and then decide if there's something we really think we need to do that's helpful here. And then maybe, again, it's what happened last year that we decide, okay, we're getting this done effectively. We're having the right conversations. Maybe it's not worth focus while we have other things going on.
Okay.
Because I do think we're having the right conversations, which in the end, I think is what's really.
Yeah, I mean, this really is the way we capture, this is the way the regents can write their comments in, right? I mean, ultimately is what this is.
Yes.
And so,
It does.
in a way that's structured for somebody, which happens to be you right now, to go and say, okay, here's 9 people's opinions. I'm gonna try and push it together into one unified thought for the CEO and the feedback, right?
Yes.
And so if we think about messing with this, the question is, how do we capture 9 people's feedback?
Yes, but again, I think this sets up a longer, that's true. And then we answer all these questions and then we write a few sentences.
Yeah.
And then they take a few sentences and turn into a consensus statement. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, these are all the things we're suggesting they're supposed to be working on, which is right on the one hand. On the other hand, it's a lot. And then they write a longer self-assessment.
Yeah.
So if the point of this is the vehicle for how we give things, I mean, I think I looked carefully at all 9 this time. We don't put a lot of information against this. We have a few, which I think is fine. We have a few things we want, pieces of feedback we want to make sure we share. So.
And here's what's changed. And then the infrastructure behind it didn't change, but here's what the board changed. There was a time when every comment in this self-assessment, so it was the board, it was each individual board member's chance to make a comment on all these areas to every CEO. And I will tell you how we did that, because I had one too, is you went to those comments and started reading them. And the board decided then I don't think it's a good idea just to have all these, because so many of them were in conflict, or at times they were in conflict, I should say. So then the board said, well, instead of all those comments going to the CEO unvarnished, we're going to develop consensus statements. We're going to do it face to face, not over the phone, and really kind of say, okay, where is the board? Not where are 9 individuals. When that changed, this whole infrastructure didn't change. And so they're probably a little bit out of phase.
So again, I don't think you need to do anything. And I think you can feel like within this framework, the changes you've suggested are okay, they're fine. And we just need to decide if we think it's working, if it makes it trying to do an overhaul really accomplishes anything.
Yeah, we'll be working on 2 consensus statements this meeting, so
Right.
that should help keep it fresh.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Well, the consensus statements are really, I think, are really good. And I think Julian's doing a wonderful job of taking all these various ideas and putting them together. And then some of them even kind of still show up as a little bit in conflict, and we'll talk about that today, and those will get done, and that'll be great. I mean, so it's not, none of it's about the actual, I think, gather all the feedback. Everybody seems to really be motivated to give the information, and then it gets all, so now that's working perfectly. And that's where I think last year I convinced myself that, okay, this is okay. This is a document they can start with, and we'll go from there.
We'll come, I don't think, I agree with Carl. So the direction, you guys don't need it. And what I suggest is let's just hit pause for 30 days. Talk about it. We'll come and say, yeah, let's just make these changes, push it out. Or, hey, go get feedback from the CEOs on this idea also. You know, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Clock's ticking. You good with that, Regent Harrison Lee?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. All right, so we'll push this one off to the April agenda. Good. And everybody glad we're not meeting during spring break?
Oh, is it?
Same guy that got rid of ties. Okay.
Maybe a trend.
Here I am. I like to make rules and then break them. Okay. Let's discuss new region orientation, if we can. And that, Landers, Julian, tag team. Julian, here we go.
So as you know, one of the governance committee's tasks for the year is to discuss the new region orientation. I've given you the schedules for this last year. We had 2 for the 3 new regions. The first one is more comprehensive. The second one was just for kind of getting them ready to do the CEO assessments and how to use the tool and everything. We had all 3 at both this time, and we were fortunate to have chair, vice chair come to that first one. And so I think that's helpful to the new regions. This year, we also talked to them about the chair, vice chair election process, as was suggested last year. This coming year, we'll be able to give them even more detail about how that's going to work going forward. I don't know if you all had any other observations about how, I'm sorry, Regent Harrison Lee, I'm turning my back on you, about how we're doing, if you had any other suggestions for things we could do to improve what we're currently doing. It's just an opportunity to kind of think about it. And again, if you want to think about it and provide feedback next month, we can do that too.
Did you collect any feedback from the 3 regions? Anecdotally, I talked to them and they actually, the breaking it up into 2 parts, I think we derived probably most benefit of any year. We didn't have as much noise around the confirmation process and all that. So I think it was something where, okay, hey, I got a stair step in because they were coming in late too. You remember
Right.
it's the board retreat. And then coming in later after they'd had a few meetings under the belt, sit there and finish. I got really positive feedback on that, but I don't know anything different too. But just curious if we got anything, from the people going through it.
I did not formally ask them, but similar to you, I think I've heard from I've asked them individually, you know, if they were getting what they thought they needed. And the second one, we actually, the primary topic was the CEO assessments, but we also put on the schedule an opportunity for them to ask any other questions that they had that had occurred to them since the first time we met. And once they've been through several meetings and kind of knew what to ask, they were able to do that. And I think too, I mean, the communication is pretty open and fluid between board staff and the new regents. And I think they feel comfortable asking questions and you know, just once when it comes up, they ask. And it's not like they have to wait for an orientation to get that information. But I think having the two orientations helps develop that relationship and gives them more comfort in asking those questions maybe.
We're better now because
Mhm.
you know, there was a time when they'd be going through confirmation at the same time as getting the orientation on a full day and like an 8-hour just information dump. And it was just too much. So, you know, a regent's thinking about all the questions you might get during confirmation while they're trying to listen. And now we've broke that up. It's better.
Essentially, the second one's an hour after a meeting's over, right? Yeah. Is that what it was? 2:30 to 3:30 on a
Remember?
afternoon after
Yeah.
the change, on
Well-
Thursday afternoon.
Well, I guess I don't think that 2 is a brand new process. I passed it 2
You were the
also.
first ones.
Yeah.
And it was a separate meeting. So it wasn't right after me. It's a separate meeting.
I think it was along with your confirmation. You guys were back in town for that.
No,
I just hate having everybody-
We zoomed it.
Oh, you zoomed it. Okay.
And I mean, but ours is dated, I know, but, you know, Chair Harrison Lee came to ours as well, so I do think it's good to have, and so did Regent Kabler. I do think it's helpful that some other existing or sitting regents are there, so I think that's a good thing to do. And I mean, I think you've got it structured. I think it's helpful. I mean, could we always say we'd like to work on getting a little better every day? Of course, but I think it's helpful. The only thing I would say that may be slightly different than some of what just got said, I actually do believe that getting some of this before you go to your hearing is a good thing. And because then that gives you some, even though for us it was the same day, it gives you a little bit of a basis for how some of the questions might come. But first of all, the committee actually could decide to add something that had to do with what your job is. And then again, I think it helps form some context. And you know, it often comes up about that we're advocates for higher education in our meeting. I would just like the record to show the first time I heard that was at our orientation, and it was from Julie. So it's part of what we tell everybody. It didn't require separate research by anybody. And I think that, so again, knowing that, it's on the wall in B, I think, as you go into the confirmation hearing is a good thing. So I wouldn't get away from that. I mean, there is a part of me that I felt like it was sacking up the equipment before the game was over and some of that, but so there's you gotta get the right balance, but I would still do some of that ahead of time. It's time spent well for hearing prep in my mind.
Maybe better not doing it on the same day, breaking it up, having,
Yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think that probably depends on the individual region. You know, for some, it might be a really full day. For others, you it's a few warm-up pitches. So,
Anything you want to add, Regent Harrison Lee?
No, I'm kind of glad to hear the feedback from Regent Ice about having at least a regent there. I think that's helpful, you know, kind of getting that perspective. So at this point, I don't see any changes in terms of the amount of time. I think we're on the right track of not having it having it the same day you're thinking about confirmation. I
All
think
right.
it's a good move, so.
Yeah, but I do, I mean, I guess I'd say I understand that, but it is really nice to have the first one in person. And so that's the hard part is you're getting them here for the confirmation hearing so you can capitalize on that versus 2 trips to Topeka.
That's
So
true.
that's the give and take on it. I agree in an ideal world that I'd separate them out, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to preclude us doing that if that's what works out best. I think it's important.
I would agree. In person, definitely for the first one, I think is important.
I mean, our hearing was probably as time consuming as any hearing. And speaking personally, I didn't really like it just from my view of life is you never sack up the before the game's over. But having said that, I didn't think it was too full a day. I didn't think that was a problem. I mean, we got done. We didn't finish everything because we had a hard deadline. We got done. We went over. We sat in the room with the staff waiting, and we had to sit outside because we couldn't see what anybody else did. If they gave us a hint or anything like that. So
Sequestered. You were sequestered.
Regent Harrison Lee, Regent Ice, thanks for your feedback. You good? Okay.
Okay.
Our next meeting is April 19th, 2023. Any other business? We'll adjourn. Governance. Boom.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you soon, Cheryl.
See you. Okay.